Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house in Greenwich, Connecticut. The same dining room where we'd eaten every holiday meal for 28 years. The same china, the same centerpiece, the same seating arrangement. And the same conversation. "So Rachel," Uncle David asked as he reached for the gravy, "what are you doing these days?" Before I could answer, my brother Marcus cut in. "Oh, Rachel's still playing entrepreneur." "What is it now?" "The third failed startup." "Second," I corrected quietly. "And it hasn't failed. Yet," Marcus added with a laugh. He was 33, 5 years older than me, and worked as a senior analyst at Goldman Sachs. To the family, this made him the successful one. "Come on, Rach. How long are you going to keep pretending?" Mom set down her wine glass. "Marcus, don't be cruel." "I'm not being cruel. I'm being realistic. She's 28, living in a studio apartment in Queens, working on some tech thing nobody understands. Meanwhile, I'm buying a house in Westchester." "Congratulations," I said evenly, cutting my turkey. Dad leaned forward. "Rachel, your mother and I have been talking. This startup phase needs to end. You have an MBA from Wharton. You could get a real position at a consulting firm, a bank, somewhere with stability." "I have stability." Marcus laughed again. "A studio apartment in Queens is not stability. What's your annual salary? 40,000? 50. I don't take a salary yet. We're reinvesting everything into growth." "See?" Marcus turned to Dad triumphantly. "She's working for free. This is exactly what we're talking about." My sister Lauren, 30 and a corporate lawyer, spoke up from across the table. "Rachel, I think what everyone's trying to say is that we're worried. You graduated top of your class at Wharton 3 years ago. You could be making $200,000 a year at McKinsey. Instead what exactly are you doing?" "Building artificial intelligence for healthcare diagnostics. We've developed an algorithm that can detect certain cancers from routine blood work 18 months earlier than current methods." Silence around the table. Then Marcus, "That sounds made up." "It's not made up. We have 3 granted patents and 4 more pending. We're in clinical trials at 6 hospitals." "Clinical trials?" Aunt Susan raised an eyebrow. "That sounds expensive. Where's the funding coming from?" "We raised $40 million in Series B funding 8 months ago." Marcus set down his fork. "40 million. Rachel, stop lying." "I'm not lying." "Then show us proof. Show us a bank statement, a contract, anything." I could have. I had the term sheets on my phone, the patent certificates, the hospital partnership agreements. But I'd learned something over 3 years of family dinners. People who decided you were failing didn't want evidence of success. They wanted permission to keep dismissing you. "Believe what you want," I said quietly. Mom sighed heavily. "Rachel, this is exactly the problem. This defensive attitude. We're trying to help you. By calling my work fake? By encouraging you to be realistic," Dad said. "You're not a doctor. You're not a scientist. You have a business degree. This medical AI thing, it's out of your depth. I have a team of 12 people. 6 have PhDs in computer science or oncology. 2 are former researchers from Memorial Sloan Kettering. 1 developed the diagnostic framework used by most major hospitals. And you're what, their boss?" Marcus's tone was pure skepticism. "I'm the CEO and founder. I built the initial algorithm, secured the patents, raised the funding, and assembled the team." Lauren exchanged a glance with Marcus. "Rachel, that's quite a claim." "It's not a claim. It's what I do every day." "Then why are you living in Queens?" Marcus demanded. "If you're running a $40 million company, why aren't you in Manhattan? Why do you dress like you shop at H&M? Why do you drive a 10-year-old Toyota?" "Because I value the mission over appearances. And because every dollar I don't spend on luxury is a dollar we can invest in research." "That's a convenient excuse for being broke," Marcus muttered. I set down my silverware carefully. "I'm not broke." "Sure you're not." He took a long drink of wine. "Look, I get it. Nobody wants to admit failure. But at some point you need to cut your losses and get a real job. I can probably get you an interview at Goldman. Entry level, obviously, but it's a start." "I don't want an entry-level position at Goldman." "Because you're too proud to admit you wasted 3 years?" "Because I'm busy running my company." "Your imaginary company," he corrected. Mom reached across the table to pat my hand. "Sweetheart, we love you. But this fantasy needs to end. You're almost 30. Don't you want stability? Marriage? Children? How are you going to find a husband when you're pretending to run a medical company? I'm not pretending. Then prove it, Marcus challenged. Show us something real. Not stories about patents and funding, actual proof. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Aunt Susan, Uncle David, Lauren, Mom, Dad, Marcus. All of them waiting for me to either produce evidence or admit I'd been lying. I thought about my phone in my purse. The emails from Johns Hopkins about our clinical trial results. The term sheet from the Series C funding round we were closing next month. $120 million at a $890 million valuation. The patent certificates. The hospital contracts. But what would it prove? That they'd been wrong? That their dismissal for 3 years had been unjustified? They'd find another reason to doubt. Another way to minimize. Another explanation that let them keep believing I was the family disappointment. I have nothing to prove to you, I said quietly. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Translation, she's got nothing. Marcus, that's enough, Dad said, but his tone lacked conviction. No, it's not enough. For 3 years, we've all pretended along with her delusion. Oh, Rachel's an entrepreneur, how exciting. Meanwhile, she's living in a studio apartment, working for free, claiming to have raised $40 million from investors who apparently don't exist. They exist. Names. Give me names. What venture capital firms invested in your imaginary company? I met his eyes. Sequoia Capital. Andreessen Horowitz. Kleiner Perkins. The table went completely silent. Those are the 3 biggest VC firms in the country, Uncle David said slowly. I know. Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Okay, now I know you're lying. There's no way firms like that invested in some medical AI startup run by a 28-year-old with zero healthcare experience. They did their due diligence. They believed in the technology and the team. Rachel, Lauren's voice was gentle but firm. Those firms invest in companies founded by Stanford PhDs and serial entrepreneurs. Not Wharton MBAs with no technical background. I taught myself to code when I was 15. I have a minor in computer science from Penn. And I did 2 years of cancer research at Penn Medicine before business school. You never mentioned that, Mom said. I tried. Multiple times. Nobody was interested. Marcus was scrolling on his phone now. I'm looking up your company. What's it called? I hesitated. The company had deliberately maintained a low profile. We weren't ready for public attention yet. We wanted the clinical trials completed and FDA approval secured first. But the information was technically public. Sentinel Diagnostics, I said finally. Marcus typed rapidly, then stopped. His face went pale. What? Lauren leaned over to look at his screen. Her expression shifted from skepticism to shock. Rachel, she said slowly. There's a Forbes article here. From 3 weeks ago. Sentinel Diagnostics raises $40 million to revolutionize cancer detection. The table erupted in voices. Let me see that. Is that real? Forbes wouldn't publish it if. Marcus was still staring at his phone. There's a photo. Ew. It's. He turned the screen toward me. It's you. I looked at the familiar photo. The one Forbes had taken during their interview at our lab in Manhattan. Professional photographer, professional styling. Me in a white coat standing in front of our diagnostic equipment looking directly at the camera. The headline, 28-year-old CEO might have solved early cancer detection. When was this published? Dad asked. November 8th. Lauren read from her own phone. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Mom's voice rose. Rachel, why didn't you tell us? I tried to tell you. For 3 years. Marcus was scrolling frantically now. There are dozens of articles. TechCrunch, CNBC, The Wall Street Journal. Rachel, what the? His phone started buzzing. Then Dad's. Then Lauren's. All at once their phones lit up with notifications. Marcus answered his first. Hello? Yeah, this is Marcus Chin. What? No, what cover? He went silent, listening. His face drained of all color. Are you sure? That can't be. He looked at me, eyes wide. You're on the cover of Forbes. What? Mom grabbed for his phone. The Forbes 30 under 30 issue, Marcus said faintly. Healthcare category. It releases digitally tonight. Someone at my office just saw it. He turned his phone screen toward the table. And there I was. The cover of Forbes. The 30 Under 30 special issue. My face centered on the screen, professional and confident, with the headline, "The Youngest Healthcare Billionaire. How Rachel Chen is Revolutionizing Cancer Detection." The word billionaire seemed to echo around the silent dining room. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered. "That says billionaire. With a B." Lauren was reading from her own phone, her lawyer's voice shaking. "The article says, it says Sentinel Diagnostics is valued at $1.2 billion after the Series C funding round closes next month. Rachel, you own 62% of the company. That makes your net worth $744 million, I said quietly. On paper. Until the Series C closes, then it'll be higher. Silence. Absolute silence. Then chaos. You're worth $700 million? Mom's voice was nearly a shriek. And you're living in Queens? Aunt Susan added. Why didn't you tell us? Dad demanded. I looked at each of them calmly. I tried. At last Thanksgiving I explained that we'd raised series of funding. Marcus said I was playing entrepreneur. At Christmas I mentioned the clinical trials. Lauren said it sounded out of my depth. At Easter I talked about the patent approvals. Mom said I should get a real job. But you never said you were worth, Marcus started. Because the valuation wasn't real yet. It was just projections. And because every time I tried to explain what I was building, someone interrupted to tell me I was wasting my time. Lauren was reading from her phone, her professional demeanor shattered. The Forbes article says Sentinel Diagnostics has partnerships with Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Massachusetts General, Cedars-Sinai, and UCSF. 6 of the top 10 hospitals in the country. We're starting clinical trials at Stanford and Penn Medicine next quarter, I added. That'll make 8. Marcus's phone buzzed again. He looked at it and went even paler. That's my managing director. He says half the partners at Goldman are trying to figure out how to get a meeting with you. He wants to know why I never mentioned my sister was running the hottest healthcare startup in the country. You were too busy calling it imaginary, I said evenly. Mom stood up abruptly. I need to call Patricia. And Susan's daughter. They need to know. Know what? I interrupted. That you have a daughter worth $700 million? Is that what you want to tell them? Not that I developed potentially life-saving technology. Not that I might help detect cancer earlier and save lives. Just the dollar amount. She froze. That's not. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You weren't proud of me an hour ago. You said I was a disappointment. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. You decided 3 years ago that I was failing, and nothing I said mattered because you'd already made up your mind. Dad cleared his throat. Rachel, that's not fair. We were trying to protect you. By mocking me at every family gathering? By offering me entry-level jobs at Goldman? By calling my life's work playing entrepreneur? We thought, Lauren started. You thought I was lying. Or delusional. Or both. Because my path didn't look like yours. Marcus set his phone down carefully. His hands were shaking. Rachel, I'm sorry. I was a complete asshole. I didn't know. You didn't ask. None of you asked. You saw the studio apartment in Queens and the old Toyota and decided that meant I was struggling. You never considered that maybe I was choosing to live modestly because I believed in reinvesting capital into research. But you could have explained, Mom began. I tried. For 3 years. Every family dinner, every holiday, every phone call. I explained the technology, the patents, the funding, the clinical trials. And every single time, someone dismissed it as fantasy or delusion or playing pretend. The table was completely silent now. Several phones were buzzing constantly, but nobody was answering them. Uncle David spoke up quietly. Rachel, what exactly does your technology do? It was the first time anyone had asked. In 3 years. The first time anyone had shown genuine interest in the work rather than dismissing it. I took a breath. We developed an AI algorithm that analyzes routine blood work. The kind people get during annual physicals. The algorithm can identify biomarkers for certain cancers 18 to 24 months earlier than current diagnostic methods. For cancers like pancreatic or ovarian, where early detection dramatically improves survival rates, our technology could save tens of thousands of lives annually. That's incredible, Uncle David said softly. It is. And if it works the way we hope, if the clinical trials confirm what we're seeing in the initial data, it could fundamentally change cancer treatment. Catch it earlier, treat it more effectively, save more lives. And you built this? Aunt Susan asked. I led the development. I wrote the initial algorithm, secured the patents, recruited the team, raised the funding, and structured the hospital partnerships. I did this. Me. The family disappointment. Nobody spoke. Marcus's phone rang again. He glanced at it, then looked at me. That's my managing director again. He's asking if you're accepting meetings. He wants to discuss Goldman managing your IPO. We're not ready for an IPO yet. When you are, though. When I am, I'll consider all the investment banks, including Goldman. I paused. Probably not the one where you work, though. That might be awkward. Lauren's phone buzzed. She looked at it and laughed. A slightly hysterical sound. My firm's managing partner wants to know if I can introduce them to you. They specialize in healthcare IP law. I already have legal counsel. From Wilson Sonsini. That's the best tech law firm in the country. I know. More phones buzzing. Dad answered his. Hello. This is Michael Chin. What? Oh, yes, Rachel is my daughter. Why? He listened, face going red. Forbes? Tonight? I hadn't. He covered the phone. Rachel, this is someone from my country club. They want to do a feature on you in the club newsletter. Tell them no. But tell them I'm not interested in being featured because my father is a member. If they want to feature Sentinel Diagnostics, they can contact our PR team directly. He relayed this and hung up, looking stunned. Mom's phone rang. She answered, listened, then burst into tears. Yes, Rachel Chin is my daughter. No, I didn't know about the Forbes cover. I'm very proud. Yes, of course. Thank you. She hung up. That was my book club president. Everyone's talking about you. They want you to speak at our annual luncheon. I'm not available. Rachel, please. Mom, an hour ago you called me a disappointment. Now you want me to speak at your book club. I didn't mean. You meant it. You've meant it for 3 years. The only thing that changed in the last 20 minutes is that Forbes confirmed I'm legitimate. Your love and pride are conditional on external validation. He was crying openly now. That's not true. I love you. I've always loved you. But you didn't respect me. There's a difference. My phone had been buzzing throughout dinner, but I'd kept it in my purse. Now I pulled it out. 83 text messages. 47 missed calls. Hundreds of emails. Congratulations from colleagues, investors, hospital partners, former professors. Media requests for interviews. Speaking invitations. Investment inquiries. And one text from my lead investor at Sequoia. Congratulations on the Forbes cover. You've earned this recognition. The technology is going to change the world. Proud to be your partner. I showed that text to Marcus. That's from Sequoia Capital. The firm you said didn't exist. He read it silently, then set my phone down. Rachel, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. I underestimated you, dismissed you, mocked you. You were doing something incredible and I was too arrogant to see it. Thank you for saying that. Can I do anything to make this right? Respect me going forward. And maybe consider that success doesn't always look like a Goldman Sachs job and a house in Westchester. Lauren spoke up. Rachel, I'm sorry too. I should have listened. I should have believed you. You tried to tell us and we shut you down every time. Yes, you did. What do we do now? Mom asked through her tears. I looked around the table at my family. The same people who'd dismissed me for 3 years. Who'd called my work fake, my accomplishments imaginary, my life a waste. And now they were all staring at me with awe and regret and desperate eagerness to somehow be part of this success they'd refused to acknowledge until Forbes confirmed it. Now, I said calmly, I go back to work. I have clinical trials to monitor, FDA approvals to pursue, and hospital partnerships to expand. The Forbes cover is nice, but it doesn't change the mission. We're still trying to save lives. Can we help? Dad asked. Is there anything we can do? You can start by reading the Forbes article. Actually read it. Learn about what I've built, why it matters, how it works. Not because it makes me wealthy, but because it could save thousands of lives. We will, Mom promised. I'll read everything tonight. And maybe consider why you needed Forbes to tell you I was successful before you'd believe me. Why my word for 3 years wasn't enough. Why external validation mattered more than your daughter's actual work. Silence again. That's fair, Dad said quietly. That's more than fair. We failed you, Rachel. We should have believed in you. We should have supported you. We should have listened. Yes, you should have. My phone rang. I glanced at it. That's our chief medical officer. I need to take this. It's probably about the trial results from Mayo Clinic. I stood up, walking into the next room as I answered. Dr. Patterson, what's going on? Rachel, the Forbes cover is causing chaos. We've had 50 media requests in the last hour, and 3 hospitals just called asking to join the clinical trials. That's good, isn't it? It's overwhelming. Yes, good. I'm calling because Mayo Clinic just sent the phase 2 results. Rachel, the algorithm identified pancreatic cancer in 14 patients that were missed by standard screening. 14. All stage 1. All highly treatable. I closed my eyes. 14 people who would have been diagnosed at stage 3 or 4 without our technology. 14 people who now had a real chance at survival. That was what mattered. Not the Forbes cover. Not the billion-dollar valuation. Not proving my family wrong. 14 lives. That's incredible, I said softly. Send me the full data set. I'll review it tonight. Rachel, do you understand what this means? If these results hold across all 6 trial sites, we're looking at FDA approval within 18 months. This technology could be standard screening within 3 years. I know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. We need the data to be absolutely airtight before we push for approval. After I hung up, I stood in the empty room for a moment, processing everything. 3 years of doubt from my family, culminating in today's dismissal and mockery. Then the Forbes cover revealing what I'd been trying to tell them all along. The shock, the apologies, the desperate attempts to somehow be part of the success they'd refused to believe in. And now, results from Mayo Clinic that suggested our technology was even more effective than we'd hoped. 14 people who'd have a chance to survive because of work my family had called imaginary. I walked back to the dining room. Everyone was still sitting there, phones out, reading articles about me in Sentinel Diagnostics. I need to go, I announced. I have trial results to review. Rachel, wait. Mom stood up. Can we talk? Please? Not tonight, but soon? I want to understand what you're doing. Really understand it. Maybe. And I want to apologize properly. Not just for tonight, but for 3 years of not listening. I looked at her tear-stained face. At Dad's guilty expression. At Marcus and Lauren, both looking ashamed and awed in equal measure. Okay, I said finally. But not this week. I need space to process everything. Of course. Whenever you're ready. Marcus stood up. Rachel, before you go, can I ask you something? What? That offer for an entry-level job at Goldman. I was a complete asshole. But, if you ever need anything from me, any connections, any help, anything at all, I want to make this right. I considered him. My older brother who'd mocked me relentlessly for 3 years. Who'd called my life's work, playing entrepreneur, and my company, imaginary. Who was now offering help because Forbes had confirmed my legitimacy. If you want to make it right, I said, start by treating me with respect regardless of what Forbes says. Start by believing your sister when she tells you what she's accomplishing. Start by supporting people before they have billion-dollar valuations. I will. I promise. I grabbed my coat and purse and headed for the door. Rachel. Dad called after me. I turned. We're proud of you. Truly proud. Not because of the money or the Forbes cover. But because you built something meaningful. Something that matters. Thank you. But I wish you'd been proud 3 hours ago when you called me a disappointment. I left before anyone could respond. The drive back to Queens took 40 minutes. My phone rang constantly. Family members calling, colleagues texting, media requesting interviews. I ignored most of it, focusing on the road. But one call I answered. My co-founder and chief technology officer, Dr. James Wu. Rachel, have you seen the Forbes cover? I've seen it. It's incredible. Congratulations. Though I'm guessing your family dinner just got very interesting. You could say that. How bad was it? My brother called my company imaginary. My mother called me a disappointment. Then they found out about the Forbes cover and the billion-dollar valuation, and suddenly everyone wanted to celebrate. James was quiet for a moment. That must have felt both validating and terrible. Pretty much. For what it's worth, everyone on the team knew you were brilliant years ago. We didn't need Forbes to tell us. Thanks, James. Also, we need to talk about the Mayo results. Dr. Patterson sent them over. 14 detected cases. This is huge, Rachel. We might actually have something that changes cancer treatment fundamentally. I know. I'll be at the lab first thing tomorrow. We need to analyze the data carefully before we make any public statements. Agreed. But Rachel, this is the real achievement. Not the Forbes cover. This. After we hung up, I pulled into my apartment building in Queens. The same studio apartment Marcus had mocked tonight. Small, simple, affordable. Everything I needed. I could have bought a penthouse in Manhattan. A house in Greenwich like my parents. Something that screamed success and wealth. But I'd chosen to invest the money in research instead. In clinical trials and equipment and hiring the best people. Because 14 people at Mayo Clinic had just been diagnosed with highly treatable stage 1 cancer instead of late-stage death sentences. That was worth more than any luxury apartment. Inside, I made tea and opened my laptop. The Mayo Clinic data was waiting. 14 patients. 14 lives. My phone buzzed with another text. This one from Mom. I read the entire Forbes article. Then I read 10 more articles about Sentinel Diagnostics. Rachel, what you're doing is extraordinary. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. I'm sorry I needed Forbes to show me. I love you and I'm proud of you. Not because you're a billionaire. Because you're saving lives. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I typed, "Thank you. That means a lot. Let's talk this weekend." Her response came immediately, "Whenever you're ready. I'll be here." I set the phone aside and opened the Mayo data. 14 patients. 14 families who'd get to keep their loved ones longer. 14 chances at survival. That was the real story. Not the Forbes cover. Not the billion-dollar valuation. Not proving my family wrong. Just the work. The mission. The daily effort of building something that mattered. Tomorrow the media attention would continue. More articles, more interviews, more people suddenly interested in what I was doing. But tonight I had data to review. Lives that might be saved. Work that actually mattered. I pulled up the first patient file and began reading. This quiet moment in a studio apartment in Queens, reviewing medical data that might change cancer treatment. This was success. Everything else was just noise.